Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you're all well. Here in Britain, we actually have quite a extensive tradition of accepting political refugees. Back in the Victorian era, we infamously allowed Karl Marx to gain political asylum in the United Kingdom, which I would suggest was not actually a very smart thing to do. But nonetheless, that's something that we've historically done. Only this time we've allowed in the worst political refugee of all time, possibly, not to be hyperbolic about it, Ellen DeGeneres. And Ellen DeGeneres is a particularly loathsome individual. And as you can tell from the headline from the BBC here, I moved to the UK because of Trump. Oh, just the UK. Oh, so I oppose that Ellen decided that because Trump and MAGA was so racist and xenophobic and bigoted and terrible, that she was going to flee to wonderful, utopic, multicultural London, right? Well, not quite right, actually. You see, Ellen actually instead decided that she was going to settle down in the Cotswolds. Now, I have a memory of the Cotswolds from being a child, and it was so profound, the actual beauty of the Cotswolds, that I still remember everything about it to this day. It was honestly one of the most extraordinary moments of my life, and I think it was in that moment that I just realised like the true beauty of England. And that was in a place called Lower Slaughter, I believe it was, not so aptly named. But you can see here, so Ellen was speaking to a crowd in Cheltenham and just saying that life is just better in the UK. She said that her and her wife were considering getting married again in England, which is a bizarre thing to do, after some moves in the US to reverse the right to gay marriage, and that America can still be a scary place to be who they are. And she also addressed the allegations, which I don't care about. But so she moved to that part of the country, which, as Josh points out here, is still 91% white. And this is just this is just Cheltenham, right? This is just Cheltenham. So Cheltenham is 91% white, but then I can promise you, away from the town of Cheltenham, the more rural village aspects of the Cotswolds will be even more homogenous than that. And she talks about the fact that, oh, everyone's just so polite here, everyone's just so much better here. Well, you could put one and one together if you wanted to, Ellen, but that wouldn't really be your style, would it? So, yeah, she moved to monocultural Cheltenham and said it's cleaner and basically better in every single way. And so, given that she is a political refugee, fleeing from the tyranny of Trump, let's just say that JD Vance has the opportunity to do the funniest thing right now. I want him knocking on her door in a little shire like Gandalf coming to Bilbo, and just as a wholly unwelcome figure, right? It's unironically, JD Vance should really do this. It would be very, very funny. But there's a reason that people like, whether it's Ellen DeGeneres or JD Vance, why these sorts of people want to choose to go to the Cotswolds, of all places, when they come to England. And that is because, as I said of my own memories, they typify the absolute best of what England has to offer. I mean, just look at that photo. This is a photograph from a very famous row called Arlington Row in the village of Byberry. But unfortunately, if it were just Vance and even Ellen, two people are not too much of a problem. But the thing is that with more and more globalization, and as people are traveling more to the places that they want to go in the world for holiday destinations, you get these poor little towns like Byberry that have very, very small populations being burdened by over-tourism. And you read a lot of the interviews in this article by The Guardian, And they talk about the fact it's like we have such a beautiful place that we want to share, but the level of tourism and the hordes of people that come has just made it entirely unpleasant, and the infrastructure doesn't really cope with it. And obviously, you'll always get that one guy in the village who wants to take advantage of the tourism in order to make more money. But you shouldn't just be going to the Cotswolds for the beautiful aesthetics, right, of the English countryside and for the character of the English people that you live there. You're also going to any rural part of the country for a quieter pace of life, right? So it doesn't look like a city's worth of tourists packed into a village, right? So the moment that you do that, the atmosphere, which is a key part of any rural lifestyle, is entirely destroyed. And for the people who live in the Cotswolds, that's something that's being taken away by them. And honestly, I would go as far as to say something should actually be done to save the Shires, right? Before we get to a situation where we're looking at the scouring of the Shires, not perhaps how Tolkien intended it, but more with the scouring of the Shires based on thousands and thousands of Asian tourists just going around taking photos of the place. And they talk about as well, they don't even come for the restaurants. As it says, they don't come for the pubs, the restaurants, because they're not here long enough. They only turn up for 20 minutes. And so all of the roads going into Byberry are entirely congested. And this is very terrible, because it's one thing to be Ellen and to be an ideological enemy of the Cotswolds, right? All of her politics. She's not changed a damn opinion since she's come here. Living in the Cotswolds has not caused an ounce of reflection into herself. And also, sorry, just to say, she displays a really acute suffering of, she lacks any sort of understanding of the trajectory of where British politics is going right now. Because if there's one thing that we can definitely say, it's that everything that MAGA was sick of in America, we're definitely sick of here as well. So I wonder how much longer it'll be before she's looking to other countries for political refuge as well. The homogenous parts of ones, of course, good God, not Paris. But you have this immense problem with the Cotswolds where it's being entirely overburdened by tourists. And so it's not even just a case of demographic change, right, moving into these places. They are still very homogenous. There's a different type of erosion here that is definitely worth addressing, because really these people have a right to live in England, right, and not have to wake up every single day and just be swamped by tourists. Even if you just make some car parks, a mile down the road or whatever, and people have to walk into the town so that you've not constantly got traffic clogged up, or simply just cap the number of tourists who are allowed in each day. I realise that, I'm just spitballing ideas here off the cuff, but it's not unreasonable to expect to, especially if you're multi-generational, as people in the Cotswolds are most likely to be, it's old money around that part of the world, then it's not really unreasonable to just want the quiet life that you had inherited from your forefathers, in no different a way, really, as we here in the cities and other parts of Britain just want a safer, more secure, more English type of life that our forefathers had inherited too. So I'm really sorry that the people of the Cotswolds are having to deal with all of this, frankly. And I hope that if one good thing comes out of it, it's that J.D. Vance will scare Ellen back to America.